my name is Joanie and I am from the blog simplelivingmama.com, and today I am actually going to be making a homemaking video, and I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite topics. I have a lot of cast iron skillet recipes on my blog, so I thought it would be pretty beneficial if I would talk about cast iron care. So I'm calling this video Cast Iron 101, and we are going to discuss how to season our cast iron, how to clean our cast iron, as well as how to cook in our cast iron. So what I have right here is a Lodge cast iron skillet. I don't remember what size this one is. It might be the 12-inch maybe. This was the very first cast iron skillet that I got, and I've been using cast iron for about 7 years now, and I've learned a lot. I've made a lot of mistakes with it, but now I am here to tell you about those mistakes and hopefully help you avoid making some of those same mistakes. So first of all, we're going to talk about why you may want to use a cast iron skillet in your cooking. So cast iron has been around for hundreds of years. You could use the same cast iron skillet that your great-grandmother used. It lasts forever. It can go through a fire. This stuff is practically indestructible. If you get some old beat-up cast iron from the thrift store with a little bit of elbow grease and some knowledge, you can restore the cast iron skillet and make it usable. So that is the #1 reason why I think people like to use cast iron. The other reason is because generally, if it is seasoned correctly, which this one, I actually just seasoned this pan and I'm going to need to do another coat of seasoning on it. But if it is seasoned correctly, it will be non-stick. So you can cook eggs in it, you can bake a pie in it, you can make steak in your cast iron skillet. The possibilities really are endless. The only thing I would caution you not to cook in cast iron is something that's very acidic, like tomato sauce. That would be better off in a stainless steel pot or an enamel pot, something different. Not in your cast iron, because another reason why cast iron is good is because it obviously has iron. It's made out of iron. So when you are cooking your food, it will leach some of that iron into your food, which can help people who have anemia. Cast iron is great if you are low on iron, and yeah, that's one of the reasons that I like to use it as well. If I'm using it for my kids, especially who I know don't have a huge appetite, I can at least know that they are getting some iron from the food that I cook in the cast iron skillet. So why else would we want to use a cast iron skillet? I've said that they are pretty much indestructible, that they are non-stick, and that they can provide you with an extra iron supplement. Those are the 3 main reasons that I use cast iron. They also heat food evenly. So the entire pan, the entire skillet will get hot once you heat it. And I have a gas stove, which I prefer to cook my, I prefer to use a gas stove when I'm cooking. I have used my cast iron on electric. I have never had a glass top stove, but I know many people who have had glass top stoves and still use cast iron on those. So I don't think that would be a problem. Okay, so now let's discuss how we properly season a cast iron pan. Now, a lot of times you can buy your pans already seasoned. I know Lodge sells theirs already seasoned, but if you get a cast iron skillet from the thrift store, or you mess up the seasoning on your pan, which I'll talk about here in just a second, you will need to know how to reseason your pan. So for the purposes of reseasoning your cast iron skillet, I would suggest that you use dish soap and something like this. This is still wool. I like using this because it's very abrasive and it will take all the gunk off. You know, you might have to get in there and scrub. I have a grill pan that has been really messed up that I'm going to be showing you how I cleaned it and re-seasoned it. But what you're gonna do is you're going to put some dish soap in there and just scrub. Now, another way that you can get all of the rust or the gunky charred bits that are on your pan that you're going to re-season is with some good kosher salt. And you could use a potato. Just cut a potato in half and then use the cut side to move the salt around and scrub. Now, normally you would not use dish soap to just clean your cast iron because that dish soap will likely break down your seasoning. But since you are re-seasoning your cast iron, it is perfectly fine to use it to get it nice and clean. And you want to make sure that you get, like I said, all of the gunk off. You want your pan to be pretty smooth. So that's the first step. Once you do that, you need to dry your pan. Use a tea towel and get it nice and dry, and then you use oil to season your pan. I just put a little bit of oil. You can use vegetable oil. I don't have it here with me. You can use vegetable oil. You can use coconut oil. Whatever kind of oil that you have that will tolerate a high heat. I would not suggest olive oil, but whatever will tolerate a high heat, you're going to put it in the pan and then rub it all over the pan and get it nice and coated with that oil. And then you're going to take a paper towel or your tea towel and just smooth all around the pan and get any excess off. You don't want the oil to be dripping down the pan. Once you do that, you're going to put your cast iron skillet or your grill pan, your griddle, whatever it is, into the oven at 450 degrees. I turn mine upside down and I bake it for about an hour. What you want to see happen is for the pan to have a nice shine in this area. This is why I'm going to re-season this or I'm going to do another coat of oil. I don't need to scrub it down again, but I'm going to do another coat of oil on this pan because I want it to be nice and non-stick, and it didn't quite take. It needs some more. This pan, what's going to happen is this pan is going to soak up all that oil, and you can see where it has soaked up all the oil, and it could still take some more. And then you can also see the spots where it is fully non-stick. So that is how you season your pan. And once you're done and it's nice and shiny and good to go, your pan is good to go. So now that we have discussed why we use cast iron and how we season cast iron, I'm going to talk about cast iron care and also talk about where I messed up along the way with taking care of my cast iron. This is why people don't like to use it, because it can be tricky, especially if you have no experience with it, you don't know what you're doing. So first things first, when you cook in your cast iron skillet, you are going to want to preheat the skillet. Do not put food or oil into a cold skillet. Once you get it preheated, you don't want it screaming hot where it's gonna burn whatever you put in there, especially if you're doing butter or something. If you get it too hot, it's gonna burn that butter and turn it nasty. But you want it to get, pretty warm. Once you've been doing this for a while, you know about where it needs to be, where the temperature needs to be. I know that might not be helpful. Maybe this is something that comes with trial and error. I think cooking is something that just comes with trial and error. But don't get it too hot, but get it nice and hot. And what you can do is put your hand over the pan and you can feel the warmth coming off of it. And once you get to that, then you're going to want to add some sort of fat. Like if I'm cooking eggs, I'll put some butter in there. Or if I'm cooking potatoes, I'll put some butter in there. When we're cooking steak, we might use some coconut oil. You want to just get some fat down in the pan. After that, you're going to put whatever food you want to cook into the pan. When you drop like a piece of steak onto the pan, you're going to hear this nice sizzle. And the trick is don't flip the stuff around. Drop it in there and let it sit. especially if it's meat, it's going to get a nice sear on it, and you will know when it's time to flip the meat when the meat is easily scooped up with a spatula. So when you can come in here and just put spatula up under it, and it easily comes off the pan. If it seems like it's sticking to the pan, it's not ready to flip yet. The same thing with your eggs or your potatoes. Just let it, don't stir. You don't want to stir it around a lot. You want it to get cooked and then do your flipping. So that's how we do that. As far as utensils, I just use whatever, and I haven't really had any issues with the utensils. I've used metal, I've used plastic. You do want to be careful when you're using plastic because it might melt, because this entire pan will get hot. That's another thing. You're not going to be able to just come over here and grab the handle. What's going to happen is you're going to burn your hand. So you need to use either a little handle mitt that you can purchase, or like an oven mitt or something like that to touch it. Okay. Another great thing about cast iron skillets that I forgot to mention earlier is that they can go from the stove to the oven, and that's probably what I love most about cast iron skillets. If I'm cooking a steak, I can get it nice and seared, and our family is kind of weird, don't hate on us, but we like our steaks to be pretty well done. So we can take it from the stove and just pop it in the oven to get it cooked all the way through if we don't want to sit with it here on the stove, because it will get pretty smoky when you do that. So once you're done cooking whatever it is that you're cooking and you're ready to clean your pan, there are a couple of different ways to handle it. If you've cooked something like pancakes or even eggs, a lot of times the excess batter or the excess scrambled eggs can easily just be wiped out. Your pan will be dry. You can take a paper towel or a rag, take this over to your trash can or whatever, and just wipe it out. And then your pan will be good to go. Sometimes you might have some gunked on bits in there. I like to use this brush. This is actually from Grove Collaborative. It's the full circle cast iron brush. And no soap, do not use soap, but I just take this brush and some water and I scrub the pan out really well, and I can even use this to help knock off some of those gunky pieces, and that works pretty well. If I'm having a lot of trouble, I will bust out the steel wool. After that, I will do like a light, first I will dry the pan, get it completely dried off with a towel, do just a light little coat of oil if I've used the steel wool, and then pop it back on the stove and let it, turn the stove on low and let it just, let that water, if there's any water left, let it evaporate and let that oil get on the pan to keep it non-stick. Usually that's all I need to do. Sometimes I will just leave the oil in there and then use it for the next meal if I cook some bacon and I want to use that bacon grease to maybe cook some potatoes in the skillet. That will work just fine. If you know you're using your skillet repeatedly and you're keeping it out on the stove, you can do that as well. Let's see. So let's talk about how to store our cast iron. Obviously, if you want to store your cast iron, you don't want to leave it out on your stove, which is where I prefer to leave mine. Then you will want to make sure that it is clean. So you will rinse it out, get any grease, any bits out of it, dry it off, and you can put it in your oven. You can actually store it in your oven. I have heard of people putting it in the oven, turning on the oven, and once it beeps to show that the oven has preheated, turning it off. The reason you want to do that is you want to evaporate any water that might be on your cast iron skillet. Even just a tiny drop of water will cause rust on your skillets. So it is very important that you do not leave any water on your skillet whatsoever, whether it's sitting on your stove or whether you're storing it. You can store it, like I said, on top of your stove. You can store it in your oven if you'd prefer, or you can store it in a drawer or whatever. So here's a look at my cast iron after I have seasoned it. The reason I decided to season this cast iron is because I have had these skillets for several years and never officially re-seasoned them. And like I said earlier, they have been through a lot. and I just thought that they needed to be reseasoned. And you can see they're still not completely shiny, but over time and with repeated use, they will become more shiny. And now that I know the proper way to care for them, everything will be okay. All right, so now I'm getting ready to cook 2 fried eggs. I decided not to do scrambled eggs. I'm testing to see how hot the pan is before I put some butter in. So I like to use butter whenever I am making my eggs. And here I am testing it again because it wasn't quite hot enough before. So now I'm adding the butter. And you will notice that I make one mistake with the butter. And that is I do not get it all over the bottom of the skillet. You really want to make sure that you coat the entire bottom of the skillet. And you will see why here in a second. I did not get it in one spot. So now I'm going to crack my eggs into the skillet. You want to hear a sizzle whenever you put anything into your cast iron. So we like our fried eggs completely cooked. So I know that's probably a faux pas. I'm going to break up the yolks so that they will not be runny, but I cannot stand runny eggs. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. Give them a little bit of time. If you try to flip and it's still sticking, you know that they're not ready to flip. When they release from the pan, then you know that they are ready to turn. Now the reason why I had trouble with that egg sticking is because I did not get butter in one of those spots. A completely well-seasoned pan probably won't have this trouble, but since mine has only been seasoned with 2 coats and I did not oil the entire bottom of the pan with the butter, I did have a little bit of sticking. That one flipped nicely. I'm going to try to flip this one, and yep, had a little bit of sticking there. That's okay though. All I had to do once I was finished was just use my scrub brush, scrub it out, get it nice and dry, and then apply another coat of oil to get it back to looking good. So that's it. That's my fried eggs in the cast iron skillet. I hope this video was helpful for you and that you learned a little bit about how to use cast iron. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below, or if you have anything to add, let me know. Like I said, I've only been cooking with cast iron for about 7 years, so I know there are a lot of people out there who have way more experience with it than I do. I have messed up my cast iron. I have gotten rust on my cast iron from not getting it dry. I have tried to cook things in my pan without adding a fat in first. I have tried to, when we cook steak, a lot of times we end up with chars, tons of just lots of gunk and nasty stuff all over our grill pan, and it has been pretty beat up. So that's one reason why I showed you how to scrub all that stuff out and then reseason it. So we have definitely put that one through some heck. But yeah, if you have anything you would like to add to this conversation, I would love to hear it. Let me know your thoughts, and I will talk to you guys next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. We would love to have you stick around. See you soon.